Lance Bates here with your Real America's Voice Newsbreak. Thanks so much for being along for the ride. President Trump and the First Lady are in United Kingdom right now. They're on the grounds of Windsor Castle as we speak, meeting with King Charles as part of a royal state visit. You can see the handshakes happening here. The President and First Lady also will be visiting St. George's Chapel and participating in a wreath laying at the tomb of Queen Elizabeth II. And then this evening, they'll participate in a state banquet in advance of meeting with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer for a bilateral meeting tomorrow. The two leaders are also scheduled to meet with business leaders tomorrow before the Commander-in-Chief returns to Washington, D.C. Also a busy day for Vice President J.D. Vance. The Vice President currently is headed to or maybe even on the ground in Michigan. Here's a live look at where he's going to be speaking here in short order. The Vice President is returning to Michigan after having been there just a couple of months ago. He's going to be visiting a precision metal stamping facility there. The Vice President also speaking at Hatch Stamping, in Howell, Michigan. That's expected to happen here in just a little bit. We'll try to take you to his remarks there. And then back in the nation's capital, FBI Director Kash Patel is once again on the hot seat, this time in front of the U.S. House. He is speaking before the House Judiciary Committee after yesterday speaking before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Here's a look at that hearing that is ongoing. Kash Patel, of course, facing a number of questions about the ongoing investigation into Charlie Kirk's murder, also having to answer questions about the inner workings of his department, the FBI. Let's listen to see what he's saying for about 20 seconds.
Can you point to in disrupting nation-state actors?
Our biggest threats involving nation-state actors are the PRC, Russia, and China, and they are up 33%, 83%, and 60% respectively in arrests alone this year. Those nation-state actors wish to do harm in our infrastructure, our critical infrastructure system, our energy, our water supply, and also go after and target individuals and senior citizens and take their money through online pig butchering schemes, which we've exposed in Cambodia by way of the CCP. This is groundbreaking work that the American public should be seeing.
This is the Charlie Kirk Show. My name is Glenn Beck. It has been an exhausting day. We got here about 4:30 in the morning to do my national radio program. I have had bomb threats before, we've had death threats before, but I've never actually had to shut down my national radio show and evacuate the studio during a bomb threat. That happened, I don't even know, 2 hours ago. We're now filling in for Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to see Erica here for the first time, and I don't know. I mean, that might not be good for her to see me because I'm going to be a soppy mess. I've had her.
You're surely going to embarrass yourself.
I am. But my wife is just obsessed. She can't stop watching the kids and everything, and I can't watch it. I'm having a hard time looking over in this corner because Erica did her speech right there last week. Anyway, Paulina Luna is here. Hello, Anna. How are you?
Hi, Glenn.
You were a dear, dear friend of Charlie Kirk's. How are you holding up?
I don't think anyone can ever anticipate something like this happening, but what I can tell you is Charlie would not want us to throw in the towel. And so I know that right now everyone in the country, for good reason, is still kind of grappling at what happened. But what I am happy to see is the overwhelming support, not just in voter registration, but the amount of young people, especially over 30,000 requests for college campuses.
No, don't diminish that. It's now 56,000 chapters that have been requested to be open. Not new members, 56,000 chapters. That's
incredible.
Remarkable.
It is, and I know that in the end, no matter what, Charlie really did win, because even half of that number would make an incredible difference on these college campuses. And just a little bit, I guess, Glenn, of how I initially found Turning Point. This was a little quantum breadcrumb, right? Like everyone, at some point in your life, you're going to see these little kind of God winks that will pop up and let you know that you're on your right path. But I remember being in my finals week when I was getting ready to graduate from college at University of West Florida. And I saw these two girls and they were tabling and they had these pins that said "Big Government Sucks." And I remember going into the library and grabbing this pin. I was like, that's pretty cool. I didn't even think, that later on, fast forward, a year later, that I'd be working with Charlie in that turning point. But what I will tell you is that, a lot of people, there needs to be action outside of the legislative and the federal branch. And what we're finding is that what Charlie was fighting, this indoctrination that was taking place on college campuses, these weren't just, liberal professors from the 60s that had been radicalized, right? Like, this is actually a foreign government funded operation. And a lot of these left-wing organizations that have been pushing these violent riots, the targeted campaigns, a lot of the people that have associations with these groups that are calling for assassinations of the president, of conservative commentators, and even of, Charlie's family are tied to these organizations. And I guess what I'd like to share today is, so, Glenn, that we were on the show talking about Neville Singham, how he was funding the Party of Socialism and Liberation, coding up a lot of the stuff. Comer signed on a letter to the U.S. Treasury to freeze all of his assets. And I just met with Judge Janine, and he's guilty of a FARA violation. I think the Department of Justice is going to be charging him with that. So,
miracle of miracles.
Charlie.
Miracle of miracles. Yeah, we were just talking about this new George Soros information that Ryan Morrow has just released, or is it 1 o'clock Eastern yet? And it, you're going to be able to get George Soros on RICO charges, something that I've been asking for 15 years, and it's happening. I think, there's just no better name to name Charlie's movie than Turning Point. We are truly at a turning point, and I couldn't be happier.
I'm glad that everyone is doing what needs to be done, because Charlie ultimately was a freedom fighter, and everything that he was doing, the GOP failed to recognize, and he was able to transcend politics, but then also able to share his message. And so, yes, it's been extremely hard. It's been even harder to see some of the commentary coming out of people that I have to walk by every single day up here on the Hill, and not knowing him and then continuing this rhetoric. But what I will tell you is a lot of them know the truth, and that he was not what they painted him out to be. And I am happy that he has the team in place that's standing with Turning Point, because I know that this organization is going to continue, not just for voter engagement and for youth engagement, but to really help fight back. And I think that there are a lot of very powerful people now that are listening to what needs to be done. And this is the change that we needed.
Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much. The one thing that's come to me in prayer several times is, these are not enemies of yours, Glenn. These are not enemies of yours. These are enemies of mine. And he will deal with them. We just have to do the next right thing and stand exactly where he asks us to stand. Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much. More with the Charlie Kirk Show and Mike Lee next.